Hello everyone, I'm Mary Tallon and welcome to this episode of The Scoop where we have invited Cory Huminsky to join us today. Mainly she manages and co-owns the Anytime Fitness here in McMurray, but that's not all she does. In between all the rigors of life, she also instructs private pitching at Seaside Sports Academy and coaches varsity softball at our very own high school. So Cory, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So I wanted to start off with asking you about the gym. So why exactly did you set your sights upon Anytime?
I just got involved with my family. My dad's been running gyms for over 30 years. He started with a place called Family Fitness Centers out in Los Angeles, California, and he has been doing it since I grew up. So I just kind of got through school, and they had an opening there and they wanted me to help them, so I helped them, and then I fell in love with doing it, so I've been there ever since. It's been almost 5 years now.
So Anytime, I feel like I know that it's a chain-like gym. So how did you get yourself involved in that?
So it's actually a franchise, but it is nationwide and actually worldwide. But they are individually owned and operated. So every Anytime Fitness someone would go to, someone different is going to be owning them. So my dad, when he was looking to open his own facility, he decided to go with Anytime Fitness because it allows you to have some more like personalization to the gym. He could pick the type of equipment he wanted to put in. He could pick his layout. Other gyms that are franchised like that are much more strict, where you have to just kind of follow this cookie cutter template, and he didn't want to do that. He knew what kind of equipment he wanted to put in and what lasted well over time. So since it was his own facility, he wanted to have more of a say, and Anytime Fitness was a really good one for that.
So then how does owning a gym and being a sole proprietor of a gym differentiate from being in the gym by itself? Just owning it with Anytime.
I'm sorry, say that again for me.
So what's the difference between being a sole proprietor of a gym, owning it by yourself, and running it by yourself, as opposed to being with Anytime and doing kind of the same things?
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Okay. So if my dad wanted to open Alan's gym, his own gym, it's a lot harder in a couple ways. People who don't know you personally, it's hard to want to commit to someone that you don't necessarily have any background on them, and someone who's new to the area opening a gym that's just not known like a franchise. There's not as much stability in that. We knew that in going with a franchise, people would know the name and then they'd feel more comfortable being able to sign up and commit to something, put billing on file, that sort of thing. So that's why he went with the franchise. You also get the perks of having like discounts with equipment through being part of the franchise. So Anytime Corporate puts you through those different discounts, as well as like the security system and all that kind of stuff. They kind of already have it ready for you, so that's important as well.
Oh, so that's very interesting. Mm-hmm. So then why exactly did you set your sights on the McMurray gym?
Well, we were moving from Colorado. I had already come out here because I went to Pitt for undergrad, and my dad's family was originally from the area, so they were all living in this like Cranberry area at the time, and my brother and sister wanted to go to Penn State, so it kind of made sense to come back to Pittsburgh from Colorado. And really, he knew that Peters Township had a good school district. He wanted to have his kids go here, so my brother and sister went here to Peters, and he looked around in the area and he found the location near Giant Eagle, and he thought it was a really good location. So he just kind of put his, all his eggs in one basket there, and it, so far it's worked out pretty well. It's a really convenient location for a lot of people in the area.
Oh. So you're saying a lot of these things tend to go with what your dad and your family wanted to do. So then how did you yourself get involved?
Honestly, I came back from grad school, and I was taking the summer off from school, and the manager who was working at the club no longer, he quit because he was going into some different avenues with his family, because they actually owned the now it's Simple Greek. So his family was part of that, so he went with them, and they asked if I wanted to help them out for the summer until they could figure out what they wanted to do. And I just enjoyed it. I liked it. I liked what I was doing. I liked working with people. I liked being in the fitness industry because I'm an athlete. I've done that my entire life, so it kind of just fit right in for me.
So you're saying you were an athlete then. What exactly did you do whenever you were?
I played softball. I played softball since I was 5, and I was a pitcher, and I was recruited to play for the University of Pittsburgh when I was in high school. So I came out from Colorado to play for Pitt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when you were at Pitt, what exactly did you study that helped you like move it into your fitness career?
So I'm not a very good example of what you study translates into your career. I was actually studying to go on to veterinary school. So my master's is in public health, but it's a specialization in veterinary public health. I wanted to be a veterinarian. That's what I was going to school for.
So you have a degree in that?
Yes, I do. And so when I got done with school, before I applied to veterinary school, that's when I took my summer off and decided to just help my parents that summer. And then I ended up liking what I was doing so much. And I didn't have to. There was also the issue with I had a scholarship for undergrad, so I wasn't in debt for school, and I would have been going in debt for veterinary school, so I had to make a decision. I was now a working adult and making money, and stopping all of that to go in a bunch of debt to go to more schooling was part of my decision. So yeah, I mean, I know you're supposed to go to school, get an education, and follow up with that. I'm not a good example of that. Neither is my dad, though. He was an engineer by training, and he runs gyms. So I mean, sometimes life just throws you in a direction, and you just kind of go with it. And it's, I like what I'm doing, so it worked out.
So with this degree, though, that you say you have a veterinary specialized health degree, how does that transcend into your work now?
Well, the degree was...
If it does.
Well, it kind of does, because it was a degree in public health. So the specialization was veterinary, which meant that I took half of my courses in the vet school at Ohio State University, and the other half were in the public health school of Ohio State. So in the public health side, they do talk about things like fitness and injuries and illnesses and different types of things that I can relate into working in the gym. But I would say more like my background with fitness and being in the athletic department at Pittsburgh and the training I had to go through with their personal trainers, their training department, is probably more what helped me in that regard. But I think anytime you move on and you get an education in something, I think it helps you with just managing. I mean, when I have to write emails and process billing and all that kind of stuff, having an educated background is always extremely helpful.
Yeah. That leads me into my next question. Where did you see yourself being the manager, and how do you see yourself doing that? How does it affect you? How do you manage it? How do you play that role?
It's really kind of an overseeing of everything. I mean, sometimes the gym seems like it's just a gym. There's not much to do, but there's buying new equipment. There's equipment maintenance, which you have to do when things break, but you also do it before they break, because you'd like to prevent as many things from breaking as possible. So there's preventative maintenance. There's billing. There's which is two-part. There's keeping track of everyone's records and entering agreements, and there's dealing with the billing company and updating information. And there's my training staff. I have to employ a staff of people. I have to keep track of them. There's customer service, which I think is probably the biggest part of doing it, is dealing with all the different members with all different types of backgrounds, and trying to make as many people happy as possible. So yeah, it's kind of cleaning. I have to clean all the time. So it's kind of a little bit of everything. And then my parents, they do the ownership part, but I've been able to take over many of their roles because I'm there all the time. So that helps too when it's a family business, to be able to all work together and be able to help each other out with all the different parts that are going on.
That's very interesting when it comes to the whole inner working of the whole situation.
Yeah, there's a lot more than you think. I mean, competition. I mean, there's a lot.
So do you have? I know that you have personal trainers that are there. How does your role differ from them? Since I'm pretty sure, do you have a personal training?
I don't train anybody.
Okay.
I have a training staff, so we look for trainers that have certain backgrounds, certifications, education, personalities, because the trainer's personality is huge with whether or not they're going to get along with members. So I we interview and we employ them, and we help set them up with their schedule. So I help schedule things for them, but I don't go out on the floor and actually train the members because that's not my background, that's my training staff. And I just do the computer work and, again, billing and scheduling of all that kind of stuff.
Do you have a leg in the promoting of the business? How do you promote?
Like advertising?
Yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much do that mostly myself. It's usually, nowadays, it's through Facebook advertising. That's where most people see things. The days of newspapers are gone, pretty much. And paying for newsletters and flyers gets very expensive with very little return. So a lot of marketing now is digital marketing through things like Facebook and Instagram. And, we'll do like email blasts and stuff like that, but that's pretty much the whole way that advertising has been going over the recent years, at least within the gym industry. But on my personal Facebook page, I mean, it's ads all the time, so yeah. I think a lot of it's going that direction too.
So I'm wondering about your experience with the high school. So what exactly do you do with Peters Township right now?
I am one of the assistant coaches for the softball team. But I am specifically the pitching coach because that's my background. That's what I did. So I specifically work with the pitchers and a little bit with the catchers, but not really instructing the pitching side of catching. And I run pitching practice, go to as many games as I can and practices as I can outside my work schedule. But I'm very much an assistant, just specifically pitching coach.
So whenever you're a pitching coach here at the high school, how does your schedule work when it comes to owning the gym or managing the gym and being a pitching coach for the softball team?
I really go to practice once a week right now they're on Fridays because that's when we're able to schedule it. And I just have the pitchers, so I'm there for 2 hours and my pitchers rotate through with me one-on-one. And then once we get more into the season, there's oftentimes Saturday practices, which I can usually go to as well. But it is difficult because of my schedule, because I am at the gym pretty late most days of the week. So usually I just have a couple practices here and there, so I'm very much a part-time assistant coach.
So then whenever you are working with the softball team, and it's the varsity softball team, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll help with JV as well. Yeah.
So whenever you're working with them and you're working with the gym, why did you choose to do that if you knew that it was going to be a lot?
Because I miss softball. I dedicated my entire life to it. Starting when I was 5, and it's a passion of mine. I enjoy teaching. I had a pitching coach when I was growing up, and she taught me how to do everything, and so I like giving back and being able to teach because not only do I do that here, but I do it privately at Seaside Sports Academy as well. So it's just nice to have something that you've worked so long for and so hard for, and be able to then pass on what I've learned to other people. And it kind of puts me back in softball a little bit, and I miss it. So it's fun.
Oh, so how long were you out of softball before you started?
Well, I played until I graduated undergrad, which was in 2011, and then I started coaching right away privately though. When I was in grad school, and then when I got here, and then last year was my first year with Peters as the pitching coach.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much, but we're going to cut to a break really quickly, and we'll come back soon.
I'm Naomi Judd, and I love my dogs. But disasters like hurricanes and floods and tornadoes can leave pets and other animals injured, abandoned, or lost. American Humane Association's Red Star Rescue has been there when disaster strikes. To learn how you can protect your entire family, go to AmericanHumane.org.
So we have come back, and I'm ready to ask you a few more questions about your experience with softball, actually, because I want to know why you chose Seaside can you give me a little bit of background on Seaside?
Seaside Sports Academy is a building over by, it's down the 19, kind of in between here and Washington. And it's owned by Chris Siddick, and he used to play for the Washington Wild Things. He focuses on baseball and softball lessons, so hitting, fielding, pitching, a little bit of everything. They do team rental for like team practice, so they have an indoor field in there. And so, yeah, I started working with him when I moved back here because I saw that they didn't have a fast pitch softball pitching coach. And I went in and I interviewed with him, and he hired me. And I've been with them ever since. So since 2013, it's been like 5 years now. So it's been a good long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So whenever you say that you've been doing these pitching things, how long have you been doing pitching coaching with?
Individual lessons I've been doing since grad school, which was in 2011, and I worked for 2 years at a place out in Columbus when I was out there at Ohio State, and then I moved back here and I continued with Seaside.
Okay, so whenever you're at Seaside, how do you construct your programs?
I have each girl in there for about an hour. I do it once a week, so some people come every week, some people come every couple of weeks, but we focus on basic mechanics, and then depending on their age level, certain girls are learning pitches, so I'm teaching certain pitches to some students. Some students were just doing fastballs or just fastballs and change-ups, and that's it. And then we focus a lot on mental game as well, hitting spots, location, knowing when to throw certain pitches, certain batters, that kind of stuff. And then also just stamina. It's an hour of straight pitching, which even in a game, you're not pitching straight for an hour. You have your innings and you're moving around. So it increases their ability to keep going with their endurance with that full hour of pitching as well.
Wow. So then with this experience, how has that shaped you as a leader?
I mean, I've always considered myself to be kind of more of a silent leader. I was team captain 2 years when I was at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm more like a lead by example type person. I'm not your loud, outgoing, yelling, crazy player. I was more quiet, but I work really hard, and I'm very focused especially when I'm focusing on pitching, because that was my thing. So I tried to just always do my best and lead by example, and I think that's what I try and do in my lessons. Is I'm not a loud, crazy, yelling coach or anything either like that. I'm just to the point. We work on certain things. I like to have fun, but I am serious about it, and I try to really help them learn that it is just a game at the end of the day, so you are doing it to have fun, but there are certain things that really help you move forward, and the mental game is really important, and I think a lot of people underestimate that sometimes. It's not just about your skill. You can be decently skilled, but have a good mental game, and you can do really well in games. So I try and bring that when I'm teaching as well, which I think is just a different kind of leadership than just being, the loud, follow me type person. I do it a little differently, but it's worked for me, and it worked for me when I played too.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying whenever you are in this mental set for whenever you're playing or you're coaching or you're trying to teach that for your students, what exactly is this mental set that you're talking about?
It's really just a different kind of focus. I want to have fun when I'm out there, when I'm playing or when I'm coaching, but you have to be paying attention to what it is that you're doing and really thinking, especially with pitching, you have to think about the batters that are in there. You have to think about your situations. You have to think about the umpire, what balls and strikes he's giving you. There's a lot to it, so I really want everyone to be super focused on what they're looking at and really trying to figure out what pitches would be best, how to read the batter, and make good decisions. And then lead your team, because if you start having a mental breakdown on the mound because things aren't going well, they're hitting you or whatever, your team sees that, and then your team doesn't have confidence in you. And when your team doesn't have confidence in their pitcher, it's not a good situation. Yeah. So I always tell them, even if you're struggling and you're struggling, like, you need to take a deep breath and tell your team you've got it, we're good, we're fine, because then when they do hit the ball or whatnot, your team has confidence in you, they're going to make those plays for you, they're going to get you out of innings, you guys work well together. But on teams, when a pitcher starts falling apart, the whole team starts to fall apart, so you can see it. So that focus has to be there, not just within yourself, but also to help your team continue to do really well. And then when you do throw one right right down the middle and they launch it into the outfield, they'll make that diving play or whatever they need to help you because they have that confidence in you. So that's kind of what I kind of mean by that.
Yeah. So then whenever you are training and whenever you are working one-on-one, and especially whenever you work with the full varsity team, what is your training style? Like, how do you implement what you want to get done other than being a silent leader? I know that's what you talked about, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, I just kind of tell them what we're doing and why I really try to explain why I'm doing something. I think sometimes, and I know I've experienced it, I've had coaches that just kind of tell you, this is what we're doing, go do it. They don't explain why. And it was really important for me to understand when I was when I was playing, you know, why I was doing certain things and what it meant and how it was going to help me and the reasoning behind it. So I really try and do that with everybody so that it makes sense as to why I'm asking them to do something. I like people to ask me questions and not just do it because I said so. I don't like that. I like people to actually, you know, learn from it and try and because I think if you understand it and the reason behind it, then it makes it easier to implement it. I think if you're just doing it just because, and I don't think you learn well from that at all. And I know I didn't, so I try to do that with everybody.
Okay.
As best I can.
So then whenever you are teaching and, well, I guess not teaching, but coaching, then have you had any sort of experiences with injuries and anything of the like?
Luckily with pitching, I mean, for the most part, unless you have some sort of a form issue that needs to be corrected, there aren't really many injuries. There might be some shoulder problems or some back problems, but generally nothing too big. I think in my career, probably the worst types of things you see are when pitchers get hit from throwing the ball down the middle of the plate and the batter hits it back at them. That's probably the scariest injuries I've seen or had to deal with. But physical injuries from like pitching itself is not very common.
Oh, okay.
Unlike baseball, because the motion's different.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, then, because you'd assume that there would be more injuries because it is a sport, and I know, like, my brother, he was in baseball, and I know it's a little bit different, and I have friends that are in softball, and whenever they, like, you'd assume that there's a flying ball, you're going to get hit.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it happens. It definitely happens. I've been hit plenty of times, but it generally speaking, really serious injuries in softball are rare. And usually it's some sort of a bad situation that happened that is very uncommon. So in my athletic career and now as coaching, I really can't say that I've seen anything that has been real bad as like some other sports can be. Yeah.
Because it's just, I mean, the flying ball is a painful one, but you know, it's not like football where you're getting tackled.
Right. There's rarely very, like big tackling type. I mean, you might have a collision with like sliding into home plate or something like that, but nothing generally that severe.
So then how does your experience at Seaside and your experience with the varsity softball team here differentiate?
The varsity team is a team sport. My one-on-one lessons are very individual. So pitching is an individual part of a team sport. But when I'm with the team with coaching here, you know, I'm working with a couple different people. I'm working with, you know, we talk with the fielders and the hitters and the batters, everybody, catchers. When I'm at Seaside, it's just usually me and the pitcher, and generally it's just their dad who's catching. Sometimes they bring a catcher, but it's just them one-on-one focusing just on their pitching. So then even like throughout their season, when they come in to tell me how things go, they might tell me how their team did, but I don't really, not to sound mean, but I don't specifically care about how their team did. I care about how they did individually because that's what we're working on. I don't know anyone on their team. Peters, I care if my pitchers do well, but I care if the team does well. I know the whole team, we all work because I'm helping with everyone. So it's kind of different. I get that team aspect, that competition, versus the one-on-one is solely just, the two of us working on mechanics, pitch location, things like that. You could pitch and lose a game, but the pitcher might have pitched really well, and that, to me, that's a great win. But on Peter's side, if my pitcher pitches really well but we lose, I'm glad my pitcher did well, but there's a team aspect that I care about, so it's kind of different in that regard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when you're with the varsity team, how do you implement this camaraderie-ship? How do you implement like this leader to subject, but not really subject, but leader to like follower in a very kind way, You
mean between me and the athlete?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Honestly, there's a fine line between being a friend and being a coach, but I feel like when you try and actually get to know your players and find out a little bit about them, their background, if they have siblings, what they're studying in school, any other sports they play, I feel like you have a better relationship with them. And if you're very respectful to your players, then your players are generally very respectful to you. So I think, everyone here, they're all young adults. I know when I was in high school, I wanted to be treated like a young adult, not like some kid. It was important. And so I try and do the same thing with all my athletes. If at the end of the day they don't want to practice, they don't want to work hard, that's on them. So I put a lot of responsibility back with my athletes, and I think that helps us get along really well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So then when a athlete or one of your trainees is lacking and not doing the work, then how do you manage that?
Then they're not going to get the same playing time as other people on the team. I mean, that's how it was for me when I grew up. If you didn't want to work hard and you didn't want to take it seriously, then you kind of get a little bit ignored by the coach. And I think if you're ignored by the coach, that's never a good sign, because then they don't care. And if they're not going to work hard and not take it seriously, then I'm not going to put the same effort into that athlete as I would other athletes. So, and generally I don't have that problem. Especially here, the girls here have been great. They work really hard. They all do. So I don't see that happening. But sometimes in my private lessons, I've had girls who aren't working hard, and sometimes I tell their parents, if they're not going to work hard, I'm not going to keep having. So I mean, because it goes back on them. If you're not going to work hard, then I'm not going to spend my time working hard to help you. So it's a two-way street. It goes back and forth.
I get it.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today. And thank you so much, Ms. Huminsky, for coming in and telling us all about your experiences as an athletic coach. And thank you all for watching. And so please tune in next time for another episode of The Scoop.